Good morning, champions. Hope you're doing good. Let's quickly get started with part number 8 because things are getting very complicated, and they're not getting complicated, but they're getting lengthier, right? So it would be better if we do not talk much and start doing the work. And let me give you the recap of what we did. We just prepared this validate function, right? Where I said that we are going to check this one by one. So how do you call this now, right? So this validate is going to be called. Now you can see that at the end we are returning if everything returns false, and then you return true. If everything is right, then we are going to return true. We are checking one by one. You've already seen that in previous video. In case if you have jumped directly into this video, I reckon you going back and checking all the videos before you come to part number 8. Nobody starts with part number 8, right? Alright. And the second one is this check availability, and third one is save, right? It's private void save. I will keep this as boolean. Also, I forgot, and just for the sake here, return true. So I'm going to return true here, right? And now that everything is fine, so I will save as save user. So I call this as save user, and I will create now a public function. So I'll say public void. So it is completely going to be void. So I will say save, right? Now this is the function which is going to encapsulate all the functions right here. The first thing that function is going to do, if, right, I will say if this inside this class, if is valid function, when we pass the function user parameter, if it returns true, then do this, right? And this function is also going to accept users parameter, which is user. Now if this function returns true, you do something like this, user dot set message. Okay, now what we're going to do this now, right? So now since we are submitting this, we still have error somewhere. I don't know, but yeah, I can check that this function is showing, some function is showing, okay, return spelling mistake. Now then everything is fine. I'll go to this register. Now here is where everything falls. Right, because we are calling from this AJAX function, we're calling components register.jsp and the register.jsp returning us something back. And JSON, everything, every jar file and every dependency has been included. As you're aware about that, we have been doing it from last 3-4 days. Since we have included all the dependencies, now our job is to get going. Okay, now all the user details are submitted to this and automatically mapped, right? And now what I do right here, okay, and since what I have been able to do is convert, so let me try. I try to convert, we're not going to accept any date parameter, right? So because slowly and steadily we are going to accept every single thing. If I go to register, now this is my register function, I call and I'm getting nothing back. So now let me carry on with this. So I will say I don't require this try and catch block, all right? And I don't want you to print anything for me. Now I want directly you calling the function which is accounts controller. So I'm going to make accounts controller object is equal to new accounts controller. So I'll make an object of accounts controller. Then I'll say call ac.save, which is the only public function, and the rest is done by ac.save. Now what do you want? You want user to go get back to this. So you'll say I want something to give back to user. So that is the message that I want user to receive from my side. Now if I click on register, now see what message are we receiving. Please write your first name. But now this is the problem with JSON, because it returns many spaces as well, right? You can see that how big dialog box you are getting. Now it has too many spaces, and what we are going to do here, I will go back to my JavaScript AJAX function and I'll say, hey, you are giving me data, but you mind if I remove spaces, right? So I'll say $.trim, right? So I'll say T, okay, it's $.trim, it should work, or maybe jQuery dot, so I can say, no, it's $.trim, it's not coming, I don't know. If I use $.trim of data, no, it's not coming. It's not $.trim, it's $.trim, I suppose. And I'll have to use is equal to, I'll have to assign it back, right? Let me check once again. Okay, so let me check it once again. Data is equal to $.trim tr Is it there? Yeah, we have trim. So what this trim does, it's going to remove, for example, there are some spaces towards right hand side and there are some spaces towards left hand side. So trim will remove right hand side and left hand side spaces, and you'll see that it's evident. And I pass this data to trim function, right, and it gives back data here, and we're letting data here, right. Now if I do the same, so now let me see. If I do, now you can see the change, right? Please write your first name. Now if I don't use this single line here, it is going to result in many spaces. Now you can see this versus this is huge difference. Please write your first name. All right, if I write my first name now, I will not get message for last name because that is not the starred item, right? So that is not what I have kept as essential. So I'll say please write your username. So I directly jump into username. Now you can see that we are communicating. Even you can use enter. Please choose a valid password. So I choose a password, PASSWORD. Now please confirm your password. I go tab. I'm just doing it with enter key, and you can see that nothing is going. So everything that you have written stays here, right? And the form is not getting refreshed, right? It is going to be better if I use something like this here. I'll show you something. If I use a progress bar, so that's going to be much better for us, right? You can download a GIF, or you can straightforward go and start using a progress bar. So that's going to be more better for you. Now, for example, if I use right here in this section, if I use a progress bar, right? So now it's HTML5 property progress bar. Now you can see progress bar has come here, right? Okay. Now what I do, I will say I want to give it an ID. I'll say ID is equal to, right, PROGRESS progress bar. So I'll give it an ID right here. So I don't mind give it an ID. And I'll go back to my CSS file and say, hey progress bar, you mind if you hide yourself for me? Right? So I'll say the property display. So I'll say display none. So you go and hide yourself for me. Right? I repeat, I used a progress bar, right, in my main form, register student.jsp, right, and I have kept it hidden. What is the fun of using it when you have to hide it? I'll tell you why, right? So I'll just copy the ID and go back to my accounts.js file. And now once I go to my accounts.js file, I say as soon as the function is called, you do one thing, right? You enable yourself. So I'll say dot show me this, and then once you are done, right, once you are done with every single thing, you go and hide yourself, right? So this is how it is going to work. Now if I say enter, now you can see it's coming so fast, right? And I'll not be able to tell you how fast it's coming, right? Progress bar. So let me not hide it, let me just show it for you. Alright, so let me show it. Now you can see, no, it's not coming. Okay, I have not used hash here, sorry, I'm extremely sorry, because it's an ID, so I'll have to call hash, and I'm not hiding it, I'm just showing it. Okay, the moment the function is called, you can see the progress bar is visible. Alright, and the moment you are done with the work, it goes back. Now you can see the process. Now you can see the process, it goes and comes. So I write my first name, Fahim, and now it says, right, write your last name, right, and it is going to be better if we display everything here, right? So I'll tell you how do you display it, right, and how do you display messages here. Once we are done, we are not going to use this, we can say this alert right here, so we are going to use something different other than alert, right? And for that, why waiting? Why don't we do it right now? So right now is the best time to do it. Alright, so this is my section and this is my progress bar. I can say div, I can create a div, and let's say div ID is equal to message div. Alright, and I can directly go to my AJAX function and say, hey, I don't want alert, I want you to give me, right, to keep to give the text that you are returning and trimming first and give it back to my message div. So now if I give it back to message, now you can see how fast the progress bar is coming. Now because we are using localhost here, it's supposed to come very fast, but yeah, it is coming now. For example, if I don't hide it, all right, so if I don't hide it, so it's not going to go. Let's say we're not hiding it, right? So it's okay, fine. So what did I do? I just removed the trim of data, sorry. For example, if you don't hide it, now it's not going to go. Alright, and now it's coming so fast that you don't even realize it is coming. Now you can see it's coming very fast. So I'll write first name. It's going to show you the progress in case if the internet is slow. So right, so the progress bar will come and it is going to play a role. For example, if I open my Edge or maybe another browser, if I open another browser, so I'm opening Edge. Now I go here. This is the first time I'm loading this. Now you can see the progress bar. Right, it's still coming very fast here. You can see it's very fast, right? But yeah, it is going to be visible from internet for sure. So now I return and now I'll say please write your username. You're getting the message right here. Can you see this? Okay, if you're not able to see it, I don't mind. So I'll go to my default.css. I'll say, hey, would you style my message div? Font, keep the font dash size to 18 pixels and keep the color red so that it is visible. And you mind if you float it towards left? So you'll say you'll have to float it towards left. Now let me show you. Now you can say please write your first name. You mind if you float it towards right? So I'll see, he'll say okay, why would I mind? Now you can say please write your first name. Alright, so let me give it a bit of margin. So I'll say margin right 40 pixels. I want a bit more, so I'll say please write your first name. Now you can see this is AJAX for you. You're not refreshing the page. I'll write the first name, last name is there. You mind if you give me your username? You'll say okay, no problem. You mind if you choose a password? I'll say password. You mind if you confirm a password? All happening with enter, and so quick. You can say just like, and then as soon as you type everything, because this is what I have validated my data for, you're getting okay. And now once you are doing it, everything is done. Go ahead and save the data inside database, and then that's it. What do you want? And you want database connection, you'll say okay, yes sir, I want it to be inside my database, and complete the validation because I've just shown you few fields. It's your duty to check all the fields. I'll go to save user, and for that, first of all, let me create private because I require a live connection. All right, okay, right, and I'll say private connection con. All right, and that's it. And now the moment you call, and now what is going to happen? The moment you make an object, right, I'll tell you. I'll just go give me a minute. Someone has come. All right, now we have this public void save now here. All right, and what we have to do here. Now imagine what we are doing here is we are creating a constructor right here. All right, if I go to register.jsp, right, see the cycle, what is happening here. You're grabbing all the text, you know that, right? Okay, I'll just get me rid of this. Let me get rid of this date.pass. Okay. Then you are converting the text to JSON and sending it to register.jsp. Now it is the register.jsp which is sending you something back, right? Now if I go to this register.jsp, and you'll find it, what is happening here. Right, you are mapping the data, that's the input has to be mapped with the data. You are mapping by calling JSON, already seen in the previous video. Now here, the moment you say accounts controller AC is equal to new accounts controller, this new keyword targets the constructor, and that's why that with every new keyword you follow the name with this parenthesis. We know that class has nothing to do with this parenthesis, right? Class does not have parenthesis. If I start class, I start with the keyword class. Now this is a call to constructor. That means every time, the moment you make accounts, right, the moment you make an object or instance of the class, you're invoking a zero parameter constructor here. Right? Imagine if you don't have a zero parameter constructor. Let's say if I make this constructor, so let me make public accounts controller. Now you can say the moment you make an object of accounts controller, if I do this system.out.println, hello. Now you can see that you will get this in output. Now if I go to Glassfish, if I clear everything, and now if I say enter, right, now you can, okay, we have an exception right here. It's because of the same thing, I suppose, right? Why do we get an exception right here? Why? Because of maybe date. Okay, let me refresh it and just hit enter. Yeah, we removed that date.parse, I suppose. Let me just re-edit. No, not here. In the accounts controller, we maybe removed that. That's why it's coming, okay? Try back. Yeah, please write your first name. And now if I go to my Glassfish server, let me clear and go to Glassfish server, right? And the moment you make an object, because the object is already there, the moment you make an object, the moment you call, right, the moment you give call to accounts controller, what you are doing, you're automatically calling the zero parenthesis, right? Or you're calling, by not giving value here, you're calling a zero parameter constructor of accounts controller. We know that, right? Now if I go to accounts controller, because it's not going to show, right, because the object is already there, okay? Now what I can do here, for example, if the constructor accepts one parameter, I'll say string name. Now then the constructor is accepting one parameter right here. And now in register.jsp, now you can see an error here. Now you are telling, or the compiler is telling you that, right, you constructor accounts controller cannot be applying to given types. You require a string and you have found no arguments. Now string is required, that means one argument is required of type string, and you have found no argument. The moment I supply string as an argument, the error is gone. So now this is evident, right, that this new keyword always calls the constructor of the class, right? So you have to remember this. Now I cannot pass the constructor, right, because I am calling the zero parameter constructor. You may say, sir, what if we don't have the constructor? If you don't have constructor, if your class does not have any zero parameter constructor, the compiler automatically puts this constructor right here, right? Now you're deliberately putting it. You would only deliberately put if you intentionally want something to happen at the time of initialization. I say, hey, at the time of initialization, I want to initialize my database. I've already prepared my DB context, so I will say con is going to be assigned with DB context, right, dot connect, right? But yeah, wait a second, it takes one parameter right here, which is this configuration. Where are you going to get this configuration from? Now that's a problem here. It's a genuine concern, because you have to supply this, you have to supply this right here, configuration, and the configuration is not available with you, right? Is it available with the, register.jsp? No, even register.jsp does not have config here, right? And now where are you going to find that config then, right? And this is the major concern using what we call that as JSON, right? So what we can do here, you can simply say that I want to include file, right, which is one step back, and I call this config.jsp. Now here you have to go one step back, right? Why do you go one step back? Now if I go to accounts controller and see, you are, whenever you click the submit button, you are actually going to components register.jsp. You are not including it, you are externally firing it, right? Now you have to go one step back because register is in components, right? And then you'll find config.jsp. Now I can go and do this. Now you can see, please write your first name, right? And now you saw that first time because the compiler was compiling it, so the progress bar was visible for quite a long time, right? Or maybe for more than 1 second. And that was only because we saved it. Now you can see it's compiling, and immediately if I do this, now you can see compiler, the progress bar is visible, right? So that's not the question. Now the question here is, where do you get that? Now we have included config. Now we need to pass config to user here, right? Because we are passing only one parameter, or you do two things. Either pass two parameters from here, right? Either pass user parameter, right, or and pass the parameter of config, or what you can do, pass only one parameter and give this config to user, right? And now for that, what I will do right here, I will go to users. Now see dependency, this is called dependency injection. I will make object of it. So I'll say private config. So right, so I am making the instance of config variable right here, and I call this config. Now since I have made it, right, and now I will supply it, right? So in that is the possibility also. You can create getters and setters, and you can give it to config directly, or you can supply another parameter, right? So that it accepts two parameters, the current configuration and another parameter. Let's try and do both of them. Okay, let me try doing both of them. Now you know that DB context is accepting one parameter. You know that it accepts config. Why does it accept config? Because it's getting DB host from the config file, DB name from the, and everything else is coming from the config file. Now the passing is that's where Spring, now you guys do work very hard. Right? This is where Spring framework, Spring Boot, the world's #1 MVC framework, comes into picture. Dependency injections. Now we are bound. Now you can see that we're locked here. We need to find a solution. Right? Where do I find config inside accounts controller? And that too, I require the same object which is filled. I don't require, I can create a new object, right? So that's not a problem. I can create a new object. I can go ahead in register.jsp. I can say config C is equivalent to new config. So that's not a problem, right? But the moment I do this, config C is equivalent to new config, right? What is going to happen? I say double C, C is already defined. So I'll say what is going to happen then? Because the moment you call new, it has already lost what config had already in config.jsp, right? Config has the website URL, the default URL, the login, request, response, session, everything is with the config, right? And then why are you doing it, right? Why would you do this? So for that, right, because once you say new config, you're overwriting, you're creating a new instance, and this instance is completely empty, right? If I do system.out.print, it'll show completely empty thing. Now we need the config file, which is right here, because it has everything in it. It has everything filled in it, right? Okay, so now I ask the config file to give me an object, and the config file has already the object of config, that is config C is equal to new config. I can pass the same C, or what I can do, I'll say save user pass config also, and for that your users should accept that config parameter, right? Or you can give this config to user. So both the things are possible right here. But yeah, now you can do something like this. The moment you are creating an object of the constructor, I said, right, you're going to constructor right here, right, and you're passing something to constructor. The moment you create an instance, you're passing something to constructor. Can your constructor accept a parameter which is config C, right? And the moment you create an object of accounts controller, you pass the config parameter right here. Now let me show you. Now you have passed it config C, and the same config is passed in database right here, right? Okay, now this is config. Okay, so which is, okay, we have imported some wrong library here for config. So I'll have to import a right library, which is config is in, where is it? Okay, let me see. Config is in the source package essentials config.java, right? So essentials. So I will again go and see in package essentials. So do we have it here? Okay, it's manually imported. So I'll say import, right? So ESSEN. So I'll say essentials.config, and that's it. Now you can see the config is here. So I'll say config config C, and now everything is fine, right? The moment you create an accounts controller object, you pass config, and config has everything to get connected to the database, and you now have the live connection available right here. I repeat what we have done: created an object, right, and the object call is to the constructor. We're passing the object which is C. C is already defined in config.jsp, right? You can see C config is equal to new config, and you're setting everything. Once everything is set already in config.jsp, I don't need to recreate it, right? And now you're passing the same. Now you can now entire class accounts controller. The entire class has a live connection right here. Alright, isn't it? So let me test for errors. If you're getting the message back, that means you don't have any error. Yeah, in case you're not getting the message back, means you're having some certain error right here. So I'll do inspect element and see my error. Okay, so I'll go to console. Yeah, we have internal server error. So let me see, why do we have an error here? We have an error right here, accounts controller AC. Now what if I don't supply any parameter? Will I be able to get some errors right now? Yeah, I'm still getting an error right here. Maybe we're not able to find config.jsp, so I'll have to type it directly. Who knows how we'll have to test everything and test what is causing an exception right here. Okay, exception is caused that you are not passing anything to accounts control. Let me make an object here, config. So I'll say config cc is equivalent to new config, right, and pass cc here and see if we still get an error or not. We're still getting an error. What type of exception is this? I'm not aware. Some type of exception we're getting. So let me try checking the console for exceptions. Yeah, this is java.lang.someThread exception. Okay, let me try and read the exception. Okay, let me read it. Okay, let me clear. Once again, try and generate the exception. Yeah, exception is here. Now, what is the exception? It says warning standard wrapper value service servlet.service, right, and it has caused controller.accounts controller initialization error. Controller.accounts controller is not being initialized. Yeah, so that is where the error is coming. That we're passing config. So that means the config is not creating any error. Say about if we are not passing anything to accounts controller constructor right here, will I be able to get same error? So I'll have to check for that. And let me see. Okay. Yeah, please write your username and password. So this is what is creating an error right here. So why are we getting this error? So the moment accounts controller is initialized, I say con is equal to db context dot c, and here I am accepting config c. Alright, I'm accepting one parameter right here. And what if I pass the same parameter using register.jsp? I'll say accounts control AC and I'll pass the C parameter right here. So I'll try to catch the exception, right? So because I have to see what is causing exception. You must be aware of exception handling. So I'll say out.print, right? I'll say h.get message. So by this way we are going to handle the exception, and we are going to get the printed exception. Maybe should get, no, maybe the exception is coming quite before that. So let me go ahead and keep it inside the try and catch block and see what is causing exception. Okay, we're still not able to handle it. It's not handled, right? So it's something very wrong happening here. Alright, so let me do one thing here. Let me not call anything. So let me try and print out.print. Let me say out.print c dot, that is config dot get db host. So if I say config dot get db host, and let me see whether the config has everything in it or not. Yeah, we're getting it right. So if I say get db name, so it has everything in it. So if I say get db name, we are getting FS project. So now what is the problem here then? Right? What is the problem? if I create an object of accounts controller, I'll say accounts controller AC equals new accounts controller, and I pass the same object to accounts controller. Why would you get an error here then? Right, so we still, you can see now it's not getting hidden. So we are generating a type of exception that I am completely not sure of. Okay, let me try some other way. Okay, let me say I want to do something else. So for that, I want to do something else because this is not going to work. It's causing, I don't know why is this exception coming. Public accounts controller, right? So you're saying con is equal to dbconnection.con. What if I do try and catch CA? What if I do try and catch exception here? Alright, so let me see what happens if I try and catch the exception here. Pass C. Alright, so let me see. Immediately still not able to handle the exception. I can see this. Still not able to handle the exception. So now what I have to do is apply some other method. So because I'm bound to apply some other method now, right? And I'll have to apply something else, and I'll have to pass maybe 2 parameters, and that's what I'm bound to, right? So unless we find some proper solution. So let me delete this constructor, public accounts controller. Maybe Pojo, we should have a 0 parameter constructor as well. Let me try this first. So if I say public, I'll say accounts controller. So I have a parameterized constructor and I have a 0 parameter constructor as well. Now if I pass C here, right, so let me see what happens. Is it able to handle? Still not able to handle. So let me not call this. Now we are calling the 0 parameter constructor. Now what is going to happen? Yeah, now everything is working fine. So the moment I call 0 parameter constructor, which means this is not going to work. Okay, let's find some other way of handling this exception. Okay, let me see this. I'll say AC.save. So I'll call this AC.save and I'll pass the user object, and I will say out.print user.getMessage. Right, so whatever message you're getting back, you're printing that. So let me try it again now. Okay, please write your first name. Now it has started working again. Now if I pass 2 parameters right here, then I'll have to pass connection as well, right? So now if I pass connection as well, I'll go to my save function, which is in accounts controller. Now I'll have to accept 2 parameters, config C, right? So let's see if it works this way. Alright, so connection is creating some problems then. Is connection creating some problems because it's dynamic? Yeah, it's connection. Some problems are being created by connection. Yeah, you can clearly see. Okay. And the final thing that we have to try now for this kind of use, dependencies are, so I'll make the object here. So I'll say private. Let me make a private, which is going to be config. I require the object of config, so I'm bound to make it config. And now let me make insert code getters and setters, right? Now what I do here, right, I'll go and say inside my profile, inside my register file, I'll not pass 2 parameters, I'll pass only user. But I'll give user the register parameter, which is the db context config parameter, right? Okay, let me delete this. Let me accept only one object, user. Right. So now we have this user object. Now what we can do right here, I will say user.setConfig C. That's it, what you have to do. The moment you say user.setConfig C, now you have all the connection and everything that you require is with you. Alright, so because you have given configuration to user. So now let me try and refresh it. Fine. Now user has config as well. I'll go to accounts controller now. Right, user has the object config. And is it now because of config C we are getting this problem? Right, so it is. Let me check and then come back to you. Alright, so what is happening here is this config word. Right, so because it's already a keyword in Java, so now this config word is creating problems. Right, so if I use this, for example, if I say config and I import it, right, now you can see that if I just click here is equivalent to new config, now you can see it's showing JAVAX servlet.jsp.jstl core, right? So this config is creating problem. What we need to do, we need to create we need to recreate the file, rename config.java, and by the time I do this, I want you guys to complete whatever it is, whatever we have done except from the database connection. I want you guys to complete it, and then I'll come back. I'll change the name and show you tomorrow, because changing the name may take a while, and then right, you still have a lot of work to do. So I just want you to get going with the work and leave tensions to me, right? So this is why dependency is basically a biggest issue, right? So dependency is an issue right here. So dependency has to be solved. That's why we use some higher frameworks, right? So it's better to know that why using certain things, right? So okay, now you got to do this. You complete whatever we have achieved so far, right? So let me see now if everything is working fine. Right, I'll go to register.jsp and I'm passing this parameter here. Right, now everything is fine. What I want you to do is just display this display error message here, right, from the accounts controller. Just we are doing here accounts controller is equal to new accounts controller, calling the save function, and then doing everything right, and then also use the progress bar and complete the registration. You know that you have to be synchronous with me, right? And what I'll do meanwhile, I'll change the names and I'll come back with a new lesson, right? And then from tomorrow, what we are going to do, only the accounts operation. So we'll be doing these things, and yeah, we still have to make this check availability work. We can make it work on enter key also, and we have to, because 3 unique keys we have to use check availability for username and check availability for mobile phone as well. And we didn't, we forgot, we have to do check availability for email as well, right? So we'll do check availability all 3 times, right? And at all 3 places, right? And in the meantime, you complete the design and you display all the messages, including this progress bar, and then I'll see you tomorrow inshallah with the solution. Bye bye, take care.